All right, everybody, so today we are going to be focusing on a particular weed that I actually do not know the name to. I just know that it is a perennial weed in my garden here. It is kind of a good weed, meaning that, it helps to aerate the soil. It has made the soil where it has been growing a lot better. It's less compact, a lot more loose, but it is taking over some parts of the garden here. So here is the plant or the weed that I'm referring to. The leaves are small right now just because it's been so hot. But when we get a good rain, these things will take off. The leaves get bigger. When conditions are really good, they kind of look like some kind of lettuce, almost like a cousin to the dandelion. But anyway, here's another clump of it. So if you know what this plant is, please let me know. It looks like it's almost like it has an arrowhead feature to it if it didn't get nicked by something. If I find a good one, let's see. Hey, that's a pretty good one right there. It has an underground rhizomes or runners, and that's how it spreads. And it could, like this particular plant, could be sending out a runner that is like at least 2 feet long. I've pulled one that's, I would say, a good like 2.5 feet or so. So it can go a pretty far distance. So you want to keep it in check. So if you do have this plant and it's growing all over your garden, then it is considered a weed. So you can see most of all that green stuff is this plant or weed. And it used to be covered. All of this area has been covered with that plant. And I pulled a lot of them, and they're all right there, piled up. They used to be all over here. Like this area was covered by this plant or this weed. I keep saying plant and I keep saying weed. It is considered a weed in my garden. So any plant that you don't want that takes over your garden should be considered a weed. If you have an issue with this weed, just know that you can pretty much get rid of it in your garden bed if you really wanted to. So the first round, you might not get all of the runners. They break off for, and some other reasons. And then when you get a good rain or the second round, you'll see some start popping up again. Just pull those as soon as you can before they start spreading again. So that'll be your second round, and then by the third round, you'll still get some of it. And then by the fourth and fifth round, depending on how big your garden bed is, you may be able to get rid of all of it or most of it. I believe this is my third or fourth round of pulling that particular weed from here. So I just wanted to show you that I pretty much got most of it out. I still have a few of them still lingering on, mostly because, they broke off or something like that. Like here, you see that it's still attached. All right, so over here I have a mixture of it, and I also have grass, like right here, and I have the wild violet over here, and I have clover. So I have a mixture of everything over here. It's not a good condition to be weeding right now because it's been dry. It's been so hot and so dry. We have not gotten rain in over a week, and the air quality has not been great either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of this section because that was the original pathway, and see what I can do right there, and just go from there. I'm gonna give myself an hour to take care of this spot, and we'll see how far I can get to it. But before I do that, let me show you what I mean by this being a weed that has a runner. So, like I mentioned, today is not a good day to weed. I just wanted to show you. It might take me longer to get things. So you see that? And it's still not the end of it yet. And it keeps going, and you can see another plant has formed. And we'll just see. So this is a good at least 1 foot right here. And it goes, like I mentioned, it goes very far. So what I have been doing, part of what I mentioned, weeding with purpose, is to, control the weed population as much as you can. And anytime you pull this, that particular weed, you want to make sure that it doesn't come back as much as possible. I mean, you'll get new weed or new weeds, but just know that the weed that you're pulling, you don't want it to come back. So that's what I mean with weeding with purpose. And weeding with purpose also means that I'm going to take my time to learn about the weed. For example, its growth habit, its growth cycle, whether it's a perennial weed or an annual weed. Typically, if it's a perennial weed, you want to get it out because it's just going to get worse and worse every year. If it's an annual weed, you only have to deal with it one season per year, but it might reseed, it might also spread, but at least it's not, you don't have to deal with it for the entire year. But just also know too that even though it's an annual weed, if it's one of those that is very prolific and it spreads very readily, you want to pull that out as soon as possible as well. So this is a perennial weed for me, and this is something that I need to, take care of it as soon as I can. So a lot of us are busy. We don't have time to worry about weeds and, garden maintenance and things like that, but it is something that we have to do on a regular basis. So, but then also sometimes you might not have time to get things done. And how do you prioritize certain things like pulling out weeds? So for me, as in regards to weeds, if I'm not able to pull out the weeds, like completely, I make myself a goal, for example. So for this particular weed, I do not want to see it crossing over to the playground area, which I hope this is not it. So that's something that's easy to pull out. And I also do not want to see it crossing into this pathway. It did do a little bit, and I come and try to get rid of it as much as I can. So that's one of the things that I want to do, or set a goal for myself to at least be able to manage it that way. Because as you know, you always, you're not going to win the game with weeds. Most of the time you can win battles. You're not going to be able to win the war with them. So do what you can and set a goal or set a boundary or whatever it is that you can do, so that way you can manage it better. And then you can say to yourself, like with me, you know, like how bad is bad for you as far as these weeds go. Basically have to look at it that way. Otherwise, you could drive yourself crazy. And I am one of those that, you know, if I don't want a certain weed, if I don't set a boundary or a goal for myself, I will try to get rid of it if at all possible. But I know that that's not realistic. I just need to calm it down and just tell myself what's like what is considered good, what's considered good for right now, what's considered good for 2 months from now. And this is what I have set for myself as far as this weed goes. I don't want it to go into the playground. I don't want it to go into the pathway. As far as this general area goes. Now, I have certain areas already where I don't want this weed at all, and I will pull it and manage it that way. Like if I see one, I will try to get it out right away after I have like pulled out everything. And I have been pretty successful with this particular weed so far. I've managed to pull most of it out of the general area where I mentioned earlier, and then a few other beds too. All right, 1 hour has passed. The sun has gone down. It's pretty dark now. I got pretty far. I didn't expect to, weed this much distance, but I'm pretty surprised. But anyway, yeah, I pretty much took care of the pathway and then also some other areas as well. All right, so I got the main pathway completed. I know you still see some weeds, but these are the ones I pulled out. This is the very first round. It's actually a pretty crude weed pulling session. So I am expecting more weeds to come up, but it'll be fewer weeds, and I'll do my second cycle or second round, and then by the fourth or fifth round I should see almost all of it gone. I didn't pull like this section or like anything that's not the pathway. I didn't really focus on it, especially this section, except for this section right here. I was surprised that weed got all the way to the boundary right there. So I'm glad that it's been hot, because it actually suppressed their growth, because otherwise they would have made their way there. So I'll have to keep my eye in this section. I don't come here pretty often because it's pretty far away and I have a lot of other beds to take care of. So that is my bad. I have not been weeding with purpose, of course, and that's why I've neglected this area. I just, pull what I could, and now they're just slowly making their way in, and it's just been pretty weedy in this area. So I want to start over and I want to manage it better. So I know that by weeding with purpose, I'm able to manage the weeds here pretty much all around my garden a lot better. And I wish I had started that, like when I first started gardening. But of course, I didn't know. I didn't know that weed was going to be such a big maintenance part of gardening. So anyway, so now I know that by weeding with purpose, that means, learning about each weed, how they grow, their spreading habit and all that. By doing that, I will be able to manage the weeds a lot better. And I know that if you weed with purpose as well, you will be able to manage the weed pressure in your garden a lot better as well. So here's that weed. It also can spread by seed. So this is what it looks like. See, it gets pretty leggy when it produces, you know, the stage where it starts producing seeds. Yeah, it's pretty rare that they get to this stage. I usually, the ones that I have seen don't really get to this stage. It does have an underground runner or rhizome that it spreads mostly by, and then when it does go to seed, it can spread by seeds as well. Yeah, so I found a bigger one. So this is typically what it looks like. So if you know the name of this weed, please tell me, because I would love to research on it some more. Just from my experience here, it does take several rounds to completely or get rid of most of this weed. And I have eradicated from one of the beds before. This is before I even knew about this weed, and this is when I started gardening. I saw it in a garden that's close to the house. I kept pulling it, you know, every time I saw it. So eventually I got rid of it. So I don't have any of this weed in the garden bed anymore. So it is possible to get rid of this if you stay on top of it. And let me know if you have this weed and how are you able to control it a lot better. And I know that it will help other viewers who might be watching this video as well. It's getting so dark now. Well, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And until my next video, take care and bye for now.
It's me, the Mario. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and ring the notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any more content.